Hi, welcome to the Quilted Gardener's Health Vlog. Episode 1. That's 2, that's 1. For those of you who don't know me and didn't come over and subscribe from Quilting Perfect and Imperfect, I'm going to give you a little bit of a background on me real quick. For those of you who know, just a refresher. Let's just say it that way. My name is Teddy, and I have systemic lupus, along with a lot of other autoimmune disorders. I just wrote them down. So I have 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. Used to be 9, but we figured out that was a misdiagnosis. So it's 8. I'm 50. I started my autoimmune disorder diagnosis protocol when I was 16. They did not diagnose me until I was 18 definitively. So in this health vlog series, I'm not going to tell you what to do, what not to do. I'm going to give you the backstory of my life and what I've dealt with and how I've learned how to deal with living with autoimmune disorders. I may debunk a few things. I may have a few little rants. So, like I said, I'm 50. I started my diagnosis process 34 years ago. I've been on prednisone almost the entire time. I've been on several other medications, and we'll get into that in later videos. I'll also talk about my cardiovascular issues along the way. So as it stands right now, I have systemic lupus erythematosus, rheumatoid arthritis, osteoarthritis, psoriatic arthritis, Sjogren's, crest, Raynaud's, and scleroderma. Woohoo! No balloons and confetti on that one. So, I mean, it literally is, take it day by day. Live your life for that day. Or as some people say, live your truth, speak your truth. Whatever you want to say. I'm not telling you what to do. So that's just a little bit of me. I own Quilting, Perfectly Imperfect's page, Haver Island Design, which is, quilting fabric store. I no longer work. I was forced to quit working due to medical issues by my medical doctors, which I have a very, very big team. Last count was 44, who take care of my health issues. I have an amazing partner, so very supportive, even though we, have little meltdowns here and there. That's just part of everyday life. I don't pretend to live in a perfect world because the world is not perfect. And if it were, I wouldn't be sick. So, I hope to have a little bit of humor here, give you some, pointers. I'm not telling you what to do. I can't stress that enough. I am not telling you what to do, as I am not a doctor. However, I'm a retired nurse, forensic psychologist, and social worker. Along with I used to do hair, so we may talk a little bit about frizzy perm issues. I don't know. But my biggest thing is to help you get through your day. Not that I'm going to be posting every single day. That's just not possible. I have other things to do, believe it or not. But you can go back and rewatch my video if you need, to laugh about something, or if you're thinking about something and I may have answered it, or giving you a direction to go. That will be one other thing that I'm going to provide here is, websites or steps that I've had to go through in order to achieve something. And, definitive information on the disease process. Even though I don't have MS or, Hashimoto's or thyroid disease or, renal failure, I have a background in healthcare. I was a nurse for many, many years. And then, I healthcare social worker psychologist. Even though my degree is in forensic psychology, I did that for a little bit. It wasn't for me. And so I used my psychology degree in my healthcare field. So, I'm not going to diagnose you mentally. I mean, hell, I could be crazy. I don't know. Some days I am. I will tell you that I am. Days that I look in the mirror and it's like, oh my God, there's Jabba the Hutt again. When I do this and I don't think about it, it's a very bad habit. Kind of like me sitting with my legs crossed, like a genie in a bottle. My legs just feel better when I do that, so it's just a thing I do. Um, One of the things I do want to cover today, I have a little list over here that I'm looking at. There's a couple of things I want to cover today. Number one, the YouTube video bullshit that I've been seeing lately of telling people you can definitively cure an autoimmune disorder. If that were true, none of us would have one. Ta-da! Light bulb! There should be confetti right here, but I don't have any. I get so pissed off when I read that on a clickbait, what do they call them, thumbnail, or a description of a video. You know, do this and do that, and you'll cure yourself. That's bullshit. It's just not true. If you stopped eating specific things because you were diagnosed with an autoimmune disorder, guess what? You didn't have an autoimmune disorder. You had a food sensitivity disorder. Woohoo! Don't lie to people. It pisses me off. Don't give people false hope, which I will not do here. I hope. If you feel that I am, please leave comments below. So now that we got that out of the way, and I'm not going to have a meltdown over it, I already did that. You know, the next thing is being your own advocate. Self-advocate for yourself if at all possible. If you are not able to do that, I wholeheartedly understand, but there are services out there through social services who can help you with navigating the healthcare process of dealing with an autoimmune disorder, especially if you're newly diagnosed. And if you've been diagnosed 30-some years, same thing. Those people are there to help you. There are healthcare psychologists at every hospital. There are social services at every hospital. Ask your primary care provider, your healthcare provider, whoever it may be, you know, medical doctor, physician's assistant, you know, nurse practitioner. Ask them to give you a referral. That will get you in quicker, truthfully. You know, kind of like going to the ER and going, oh, my chest, when you really have, you know, digestive issues. You say you've got chest pain, you're in the ER like that. You go in and say that you got a stomach ache, your ass is going to be sitting out in the waiting room for a while. And believe me, I've seen a lot of people go in and say they had chest pain when they really didn't because they didn't want to wait. Don't be like Bob with the fake chest pain. No offense to anybody named Bob out there, but, you know, it is chosen name. So talk to your primary care providers. If they're not listening to you, guess what? Something else. Newsflash. You're not stuck with that provider. You know, find someone who's in network for your insurance provider, whether you have Medicaid, Medicare, private insurance through work, however you have insurance, find another provider, and you can shop around, believe it or not. It's not frowned upon. You need to have a healthcare provider who's going to listen to you, who's going to take the time to explain things to you, and going to, you know, look further into your health history and what possibilities are going on with you. But once again, you are not tied to that healthcare provider just because your insurance covers it, because there are other ones in that network. So, definitely shop around. I've done it. I have an amazing rheumatologist, Dr. Nina Ramasar, at Lakeland Rheumatology, which is now Spectrum, I think, in St. Joe, Michigan. She's the only one in our area at this time. So it's very difficult getting an appointment with her if you're not an established patient. But she's amazing. So, sorry, I have a Werther's in my mouth. You know, in order to get into a rheumatology office, you generally need a referral from your primary care providers. I don't think there are any that will take you without a referral. Just because, you know, you have joint pain or whatever, doesn't mean you have arthritis. You could have strained something. or lupus or fibromyalgia or MS or whatever. It's your primary care provider's responsibility to do the preliminary testing to find out what's going on with you. So be prepared for a lot of blood work, urine work. Some of the tests that are done on me for my lupus is the sedimentation rate, which is indicative of how much inflammation you have going on in your body at that specific time. They do an ADNA and ANA, and that just really has to do with DNA issues, replication of a cellular property. I won't get all scientific. And then they do, CMP, BUN, what else? Urine, C3, C4 complements, leukocytes, blah, 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 vitamin levels, all that kind of stuff. Because truthfully, a vitamin deficiency can mimic an autoimmune disorder. So it's very important that your vitamin levels and your mineral levels are checked regularly, especially if you're having a lot of issues that just aren't normal for you. Like I said, I have multiple autoimmune disorders, and they kind of piggybacked off of each other. I was born with lupus. That's just how you get it. As far as systemic lupus erythematosus. But you were born with that disorder. It's not a disease. It's a disorder. So definitely know that. A disease process is something that is sometimes communicable, but can be cured through medications or surgeries, something like that. A disorder is, when you think about it, what is disorder? It's chaos. So an autoimmune disorder is like chaos going on in your body. Your body's producing antigens that either affect your, connective tissue in my case, or your antigens, and sometimes your nerve cells. Different things that are in your body's makeup are being attacked by your white blood cells, creating chaos, disorder. Disease, and it's just kind of a way I learned it when I was in nursing school and school for psychology. A disease process is just that. It's a process of figuring out what is causing the discomfort or the pain, to whereas a disorder is really hard to figure out. It's kind of like when you walk into someone's house who have 12 5-year-olds running around and you don't know where to look first. That's a disorder. It's chaos. So remember that. There's a disease, there's a disorder. The only autoimmune disorder that I'm aware of that can be reversed, but through a lot of work, is diabetes mellitus number 2. That's the only one where I've heard of, with good results, I guess. You can change your diet, you can change your exercise, you can change your atmosphere. But all it takes is one incident, of something stressful, for me at least, with lupus, to cause me to go into a flare. If I'm having, cardiac issues, it's always followed by a flare. There's just no two ways about it. I got stung by yellow jackets the other day, which threw me into a flare because, one, it scared the shit out of me. I didn't know if I was allergic or not because I'm allergic to honeybees. So, excuse me. It stressed me out, and then the pain from the yellow jacket stings, bites, whatever they are, was excruciating, and nothing was really relieving it. Tried a little bit of everything at home remedy-wise. And so, that was just an indicator that I was going to go through a flare, which it's not horrible right now. I've been up for a while. When I first got up, I had my mylar rash on my face, which is also called, a butterfly rash, which is just a rash that goes underneath your eyes, almost to your temples, and then up the bridge of your nose. Sometimes it can be in your Cupid's bow, but it forms the shape of a butterfly on your face, and it's truthfully, it's a mylar rash, which is indicative of a flare in lupus. One of the other things I deal with when I'm having issues with my lupus being active, not in a flare. A flare is when everything just kind of blows up. My lupus is always active. It's never dormant, even though I can go into what they call a remission, which just means I'm not having flare after flare after flare. My lupus is always there. It never goes away. It doesn't go to sleep. It doesn't go on vacation. That's for damn sure, because if it did, I'd lock the door and not let it back in. So it's always there. So it's not always active in a way that is detrimental to my body, is the best way to explain it. I can feel like my skin is absolutely on fire, like I'm running 105 plus temp, take my temperature and I'm 96.2. But you point one of those little laser temperature things at me and it'll read 100 plus as far as my external temperature, but my core temperature is normal. I will break out in sweats for absolutely no reason, but I do take prednisone, so sometimes that's what causes it. But like being in the sun, photosensitivity will burn me like that. So I have to be very careful with that. Plus I'm Irish. Red hair, green eyes, light skin. Therefore fall colors. Hello. Just kidding. Not really. But being an advocate for yourself, getting back to that, is, keeping track of your symptoms. Keep a journal. Making sure your doctor's listening to you. Making sure the tests that are being ran on you are appropriate for what you feel is going on with you, which you can Google. Put your symptoms in, see what tests need to be ran. If you think you have lupus or fibromyalgia or MS or, whatever. You can look at those and say, is this test really, going to figure it out? The other thing is, is like I said, if you feel your doctor's not listening to you, find another one. Go to a healthcare psychologist. Go to a healthcare social worker. That's what we did. We helped you find answers. We helped you find providers who were able to give you the answers or point you in the right direction. That's what our job was. Do I miss it? Some days. Other days, it was very stressful. And I was forced to retire by my doctors at U of M. Just because my connective tissue was getting very, very damaged. Another thing that a lot of people don't know about me, I had gone into a new position with my employer, and I was, my office was changed from where it originally was to another one, which had an air conditioner in it that had not been cleaned, a window air conditioner, and it had black mold in it. Of course, I inhaled it and developed a respiratory infection that then moved from not only my lungs but into my heart, and caused a lot of havoc from September 2015 to December 1st. I was hospitalized 12 times because of cardiac issues, respiratory issues, and they just couldn't figure out what was going on, until the point that on December 8th, I just said, I'm done. Handed in the keys to my office, packed up everything, came home and just said, what am I going to do now? Ended up getting referred to U of M, and, because you've got to be referred pretty much to see rheumatology. And my rheumatologist, I had, my main rheumatologist, who is now Dr. Dinesh, is this major world-renowned research physician in rheumatology and scleroderma. So he's no longer in practice, but his fellow took his place. And the two of them looked at me and said, why are you still working? I'm like, I'm not. I just quit. And they were like, good for you. You needed to quit 3-4 years ago. And then they'd filed the paperwork for my disability. I didn't even realize they had done it until about 6 months later. I got this deposit into my bank account because I had filed once before and didn't hear anything back, truthfully. So all my information was there for, Social Security. And then, my doctors filled out the paperwork and bam, I was approved for disability. And since 2016, I've been on disability, which is not the greatest thing because I get in a month what I made in a week as a nurse after taxes. So, I won't go political on that. I could go so political on that, but I won't. I'm not a political person, even though politics really piss me off too. But that's not what this channel is about. So, speaking of that, what this channel is about is going to be, like I said, how I cope, hopefully humor. Um, Laughter is truly the best medicine. That's all there is to it. Um, what I do to help me cope getting through the day, how I advocate for myself, what I do when I'm having a bad day. Um, of course, backgrounds and information on what I personally have diagnosed for me. And then with me having a real medical background, unlike some of these YouTubers who just throw doctor or MD on, before or after their name, you truthfully don't know if they really are medical professionals. Anybody can throw anything on their title on YouTube. It's up to you, as a viewer of that channel, to research them. And you can put their name in and Google it to find out if they really are a doctor, a nurse, nurse practitioner, a dietitian, whatever. There were a couple of YouTubers who were touting themselves as psychologists, and come to find out their mother had been a psychologist but then lost her license, and then this guy decided to create his own YouTube channel and was giving medical advice to these people, which as a psychologist, we don't give you advice, we listen to you, and we allow you to work through your issues. Psychiatrists, on the other hand, give you medical advice, give you prescriptions. But as psychologists, we do not do that. He was. It took a little bit for YouTube to realize that he was a shyster. Even though people were reporting it left and right, he was a very popular channel. I only made it through about 10 minutes of one of his videos and just said, "You're full of shit." That's just me. That's the other thing. I am not going to edit myself. What comes in my head comes out of my mouth, sometimes before I even think about it. I can edit some things out, but generally I don't. Just for the fact that I'm a real person. I'm not out there, as a persona. I'm not trying to get viewers. I'm not trying to get subscribers. I'm not trying to get, paid for what I'm saying. What I am trying to do is help you have a better understanding of what's going on as far as immune deficiency disorders. There was a very loud noise. I don't know what that was. Autoimmune deficiency disorders, or disorders. And we'll go deeper into that as well. Probably in my next video would be the difference between disorders, deficiencies, and diseases. But just know, you're not contagious. It's not your fault. You didn't do something to deserve it. You don't have to ask why me. Maybe the first year I did that because I was being stuck with needles so much. But after that, it was my life. I just had to make a decision to accept what was me and live with it. Have I had other meltdowns? Yes. When something else happens, or I end up in the hospital, I have meltdowns. But I still don't say why me. It makes me unique, I guess. So, I think I pretty much covered what I wanted to as far as this introduction and, a little bit about my background, what this, vlog is going to be about. I chose not to use another channel because I just don't have the time to keep up with that. If you watch my Quilted Gardener videos, which are about gardening and quilting, you would already know that. But, if you want to come along on my journey, subscribe to my channel, and tap the little bell, because then you're going to know that I put up a new video, and my thumbnail placards in the beginning are going to tell you if it's a quilting, gardening, or health vlog, because I do all three. So it was just easier for me to have one channel, and not have to come up with another name, or deal with two different pages. It's a little difficult because I try to answer back comments on my other videos, and having two pages, that's just, I don't do this for a living. I do have a life outside of YouTube. I do still sew, I quilt, I garden, I cook, I clean, actually. I wish I could afford a maid. That'd be great. So that's where we're at on this first video. this weekend I am kind of filming several videos in a row in order to be able to get them all edited and then, upload them one after the other. So if you think I'm uploading a lot, it's because I filmed a lot to try to get ahead on some things. Because I never know when something's going to go wrong and I'm just kind of done. It's Friday the 13th, full moon. I don't intend on pretty much going outside of my house or trying anything major because I like my fingers and toes where they're at. I don't want to cut them off. And people are just crazy this time of the month. That's one more thing I'll have to cover with this channel is, how things affect me atmosphere-wise, believe it or not. The moon, the barometric pressure, the humidity, blah, 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 blah. So, hopefully you enjoyed this first video introduction of, the Quilted Gardener's health vlog, and you'll subscribe and hit the little bell. Tell others about me. I'm just a down-to-earth person. I tell it like it is. If you send me a link to a video of something you've seen on YouTube and you're questioning it, I'm going to research it and I'm going to get back to you, and I'm probably going to do a video on it, especially if it's bullshit, bogus stuff. Like I said, nothing pisses me off more than being lied to or giving false hope to an individual who does not need that at this point in their life. So, there you go. Hopefully I don't get a copyright strike because I just realized I have a CD playing in the background, which is Christmas music, one of my favorite things. So, there you go. Until next time, peace.